with all the hurt and heartache and brokenness in the world, our world, is their hope. This is Jeremiah 18, a living illustration. We all typically like illustrations, whether they are great stories that come out of the Bible or stories that we hear from pulpits or lessons that we learn, parables instruct us. This is a living illustration at the potter's house. Now, making pottery is one of the oldest, most ancient arts, and it is virtually unchanged. This art of making pottery, unchanged from ancient times. If you went to a potter's shed in the Middle East or even in this country today, if you would find a house of ceramics, you would discover that pottery is made virtually the same way as it has been done year after year after generation after generation. A few minor changes, maybe some motorization and so on, but ultimately there is the clay and there is a wheel that is operated with a treadle, either motorized or by your feet. And the potter puts the clay on the wheel and turns it and shapes and makes a vessel. So God takes us to this vivid illustration in Jeremiah 18 to teach us some lessons, vital lessons, at the potter's house. And what do we learn on our trip to the potter's shed? That is that failure is not final when you put your life in the Master's hands. That's where we're going in this message today. That failure, your brokenness is not final. It needs not to be final when you put your hands or your life in the Master's hand. This was originally spoken to a nation, the nation of Israel. And certainly it's a word for America today. As Jeremiah described the nation of Israel, we are facing disaster. We have political problems, we have moral problems, we are broken morally, spiritually, politically, financially. We are a broken people, and only God can fix it. Only God can change the future of our nation. And what is true for the nation is true for you and me. That we are on the potter's wheel. We, like the clay, are in the Master's hands. What do we learn there? Let's think for a few moments about the shaping of a person's life. The shaping of a person's life. Verse 3 tells us that the potter places the clay on the wheel. We don't have to wonder who is the potter, because God tells us in verse 6 that He is the potter. Can I not do with you, O Israel, as the potter does with the clay? The potter represents God. He is the divine potter. And like the potter, God makes us and shapes us. He sovereignly breaks us and makes us into the persons that He desires us to be. God is the master workman, and He has a plan, a purpose in making every life. The Bible says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. The handprint of God is upon every life. The echo of God is in every soul. And His design, His desire, is to make a beautiful vessel for His glory, for His use. Valuable and beautiful and useful. You are valuable because you are loved. Loved by God. And your soul, your very being, cries out to know the God who made you, who created you for Himself. You are made by Him and for Him. Augustine of Hippo said, "O God, you have created us for yourself, and we are restless until we find our rest in Thee." Well put, Augustine. We will never find happiness or hope in life in chasing pleasure or money or possessions or property. We'll not find it in drugs or alcohol or sex. These do not bring peace and promise that only God can give, the happiness that is expected. You know, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Sin is spiritual insanity because somehow we think that by more sin or by living my own life, my own way, again and again and again, I will ultimately get a different result and be happy. The fact is, God is for your happiness. He made you for His good will. The chief end of man is to know God, enjoy Him forever. You were made to know Him and the happiness and fulfillment and the forever life that He gives. The reason that some of you don't have security and identity in your life is because you are living outside of a relationship with God who made you. God is the divine potter. But what is the clay? Who is the clay? Well, of course, we be the clay. We are the clay. Now, that's not very flattering, is it? For me to stand before a very highly good-looking, intelligent group like yourselves and call you a congregation of clods. Clay. The clay is colorless. It's basically worthless in and of itself. It's just wet dirt. But when God gets His hand, when the divine potter gets his hand on the clay and begins to shake it, shape it and make it and even break it and bend it, He makes something beautiful of our lives. You know, the Bible says that we were made from the dust of the earth. It's often said at funerals that from dust to dust and ashes to ashes, that we